Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's webinar. We're here at the Tiffany Greens Golf Club in Kansas City, Missouri, and we're brought to you by Medicus Golf and KickX Golf. If you have any questions, please type them in the sidebar, and we'll get to them once we finish. Brendan's on a little hiatus today. He thought we weren't going to be having anything today, so he's out on the tee teaching actually. So today's webinar is what can we learn from Rickie Fowler and his recent victory at the Tour Championship. The first thing is you need to get a swimsuit model as a girlfriend. You need to wear loud golf shoes, loud watch bands. I'll show you that one. That one's a little orange. And then from there, you're pretty much got your Rickie Fowler thing on. But seriously, you know, he birdied 17. I think it was 7 out of the, with the extra holes, 5 out of 6 of the times he hit that he played that hole, and he hit pitching wedge every single time. So if you look back through his round, it wasn't spectacular going into the last day until the last few holes when he started hitting these wedges close, and then of course making all those putts. So what we can take from that is you need to be a much better wedge player and a much better putter of the golf ball. So let's talk about wedges a little bit first. And we've had this discussion before. You can hit wedge shots either in a full swing mode, which you would have, you know, your hands more what we would refer to as in front of the club head, not excessively, but in front. So that would mean that this is all one line through here. And that would be called an inline club shaft with 5 simple keys. That would be using a standard wedge shot. You can get your lowest wedge shot by increasing that forward lean. You do need to make sure that you aim a little bit left though, because the tendency is going to be for it to go right. And then if you're trying to get softer shots around the green, just feel like you're coming into it with the shaft straight up and down. So you can vary that shaft location, okay, at impact. You can vary where you go in your length of follow through as well. You can stop short right here for the lowest one, a little more mid trajectory, and a little bit higher trajectory. So we talked about this before. It's 9 different shots you can hit with each wedge. And you do that by a couple of ways, varying the impact location and then varying the exit location. So if you have 3 exits per shaft location, maximum forward lean, how the club's designed, and vertical, that gives you 9 different shots. Now we're fortunate here at Tiffany Greens that we have a wedge range that we put in last year. It only has 4 lengths, but it's good enough for what we need to do, and it's good enough for all our players to drastically lower their scores by becoming good wedge players. The range is from 25 to 45, 65, and 80, and they are 4x4 targets. And the idea is to fly the ball and hit the 4x4 target, not roll up to it, but fly to it. That way you're controlling how far you carry the golf ball. Now, you know, we had wedge competitions every Wednesday last year. Starting in about June, we'll do the same thing this year. And the players would come in and we'd create a pool, and they would get 5 shots at each one of those targets. Then we had a bonus ball, different color, and they could pick a target. If they hit it, they got double the points. So at the end of each session, each Wednesday, the player that had the most points won the bonus pool that week. And then we kept track of their points all year, and at the end of the year, the player that had the most points got a new fitted wedge. So practicing wedge shots and putting are not the things that players want to do. They want to hit driver all the time. But if you can sit there and practice your wedge shots, you'll see a lot of tour players. And they're hitting these little finesse type wedges. They look like this over here. Their arms are actually going more around them and into them, with the face going up. What you see with players that have trouble with wedges, you see a lot of that movement. Now, Lee Trevino, last week, there was a video on YouTube, and he was talking about hitting wedges. And what he did is he hit the wedge just like this, right? But then he would fold his arm and keep it this way. So he never ever let this break down. So Lee was a pretty good wedge player. He called it his check wedge. He always hit down on them pretty hard, and he was a good wedge player. There are great wedge players out there today that don't do this. They kind of use the bounce and let the club come up, right? So no matter which technique you use, and we have a lot of those available. You know, if you go over to my website, which is chuckevansgolf.com, you can look on the videos and you can find all the videos that are related to wedges or putting or whatever. So now, practicing wedges is more fun, however, than putt-setting on the putting green for a half hour every day. But at the end of the day, if you're knocking it stiff and you still can't make the putt, it doesn't matter, right? Because if you're putting for a 10, that doesn't make you a great putter if you one putt for a 10. Now, I'll give you another example. The other day I went out with one of our members, Mike Martin. Mike's a good player. We went out, we played 8 holes. He had 6 birdies and 9 putts, all within that 8 holes. Now, the longest putt he had was 15 feet. He stuck his wedges tight every single hole. He just kept sticking his wedges tight. But he worked on that all last year and all winter in our training facility here at our indoor center. He worked on it all last year at the wedge range, and he worked on it in here at our indoor training center. So we're going to get out of this exactly what we put in. So if you want to be a good wedge player, you need to find a technique that works for you, whether it's the handle out here or more of this technique. It doesn't matter. You just need to find the one that works best for you. You need to learn how to hit different types of wedge shots, and then you'll have a favorite. You know, learn them all, but then you'll always have a favorite, and that's the one you'll wind up going back to. Now, for the putting, I mean, they're great putters on tour. I mean, they wouldn't be on tour if they weren't good ball strikers, decent short game, and decent putters. They would not be out there. So the very worst person on tour in the putting stats is almost a shot better, right, per hole than the golfer that shoots 15 handicap or above. So you take the very worst putter on tour and then the average player, and the worst putter on tour is still better. And they do that through regimented practice sessions. So you can set up practice sessions for putting. And a good way to do that is put your putter, if this is a golf hole, put your putter in the hole, put a tee there with all 4 corners, or all 4 around it. So you've got, you know, you're circling the hole 360 degrees. Stand there and then practice your putting, right, from that distance and keep walking around doing that. We always tell our players as well when they get ready to go play in tournament golf, when you get on the green, go ahead and putt from fringe to fringe to get a feel for the green that day. It might be faster, it might be slower than it was the day before, or even the last time you played it. You need to get a feel for how fast the greens are rolling. And again, putting is a pretty individualized idea. You know, you can, some players like to stand open, like Jack Nicklaus, put your forearm back here, what we call in playing with the shaft, and you just bend it and straighten it. Okay? This would be what we call pushing the putter through, because you're pushing it or driving it through the right arm and through the right elbow. Some players are more arc putters, okay? And that works for some players. Some players set up with the ball in the middle. Some players set it up here to their left foot so that they don't go too much inward to outward. Back here with this arc, the tendency would be if you have it too far back, you could push the putt. Too far forward, you could actually pull it. So again, you can use your shoulders, you can use your arms. I wouldn't recommend being a wristy putter. That worked back in the day when the fringe was real or the grass was real long on the greens, but not so much today in today's golf. So again, you can pendulum putt, okay? Or you can what we call push or drive putt. Right? And that's just pushing the putter through there, keeping the club face relatively square, basically. Warren Roberts, for example, when he takes the club back, actually hoods the club face looking down and then points it up coming through. So his club face is essentially doing this motion, right? And he was a pretty good player. So again, all these things are individual. You just have to find the one that works for you. And then once you have that, just keep doing it. Ingrain that in there. Because if you keep changing things constantly, you never develop a pattern for what it is you're trying to do. Because you're changing it all the time. You know, there's an interesting post the other day talking about all the different variations in the golf swing, and that's what they are. They're all variations. You're going to see players that appear to be laid off at the top. You're going to see players that appear to be across the line. You're going to see steep swing planes, flat swing planes. You're going to see all these different things. And again, you want to try to match that up best for your body. And then there was a post the other day about how to get the club shaft lined up with your lead arm. You know, that is not difficult. If I'm at the top of the swing, and I'll do it from this angle, all right, the club head is actually behind, that'd be in front of, that would be in line with, behind the arc of my hands. And just do this with your right arm only. So if the club head is behind the arc of my hands, and I start down with no manipulation, as soon as this club head gets outside the arc of my hands, it wants to start coming down. We need to let it do that. When it starts coming down, that's the weight of the club head. Let it continue to do so. But at the same time, you're also moving your pivot, and you continue to move your hands, and it will line itself right up. So this is what it will look like as it's lining itself up. You can see there's non-exaggerated forward lean. But again, it's just the weight of the club. Now, there are a couple of things you have to do when you do this. You're up here, and again, it's behind your hands. So as you start down, and as soon as that club gets outside the arc of your hands and wants to come down, let it come down, and then get the face down the square. So you may even feel a little bit of a left hand turning under if you're a right-handed golfer. Get your body out of the way so your pivot can move through here. Right? Get your pivot, your body out of the way. Club is starting to fall down, let it fall. Make impact, continue going. That is not casting. Tom Watson is exactly how he swung the club, and he's in the Hall of Fame doing so. So just a couple of little tips there. Going back again to your wedge real quick. Again, you're not trying to hit a wedge with all of this shaft. Let the wedge come down to the ball and just hit it. So again, that's letting the weight of the club head, once it gets below and out and outside the level of your hands, just let it come down. Let the weight bring it down. All right, so we got a couple of questions, so let me just check up here and see what they are. Okay, this is from George. How was Rickie able to hit the ball so close on 17 while others could not? Well, first of all, where the pin was on the last day, you definitely didn't want to be right at the pin unless you had ultimate control of your club that day, and you did. Most people are going to send that out to the left a little bit. But the difference between players that control their golf ball and don't control their golf ball as well, and this is the biggest issue with tour players, is they don't control the club face as well as they need to related to their swing path. So, and I've talked about this before, players that usually that are in the last group on Sunday, the player that loses a match is because their ball over curved. Rickie's amount of curve was what he needed that day. So he actually controlled the club face path relationships better than anybody else did that day. Okay? So again, and we've talked about this many times, the ball primarily is going to leave where the club face is pointed, and then it's going to curve away from whatever swing path you're swinging on. So if I was swinging more outward, my club face would have to be more closed to that path. So it would still start right and curve back. If I was swinging more inward, now my path is going left, so my club face would have to be open to that path to get it to curve back to target. Again, you don't want big discrepancies in path and face because that creates too much curve. Okay? We have another question here. This one is from Air. Is a lob wedge 60 degrees or more something we should have in our bag, or will the sand wedge be enough? Well, I think it depends on the golf course you play. There are times when I carry a pitching wedge plus 3 wedges, sand wedges, and there are times when I carry a pitching wedge and 2 wedges, sand wedges. So it depends on your course, depends on the condition, depends on the type of shots that you're comfortable with. If you have that extra wedge in there, that means you have to take something else out. So by playing the golf course and knowing the golf course, you may figure out, I never have any 3-iron shots in it, but I need different lofts on my wedges. In that case, you'd add your 4th wedge, okay? Third sand wedge, 4th wedge total. If you don't have a use for it, then don't carry the 6th, right? Go ahead and just keep the 3-iron in that, because you can take your 56, right, and just turn it to the right, open it up, add more loft to it, so you can basically do the same thing. I mean, if you played golf as long as I have, back in the day, you only had a pitching wedge and a sand wedge. You didn't have all these options. So you learned how to get all those shots with your sand wedge by opening or closing the base a little bit. Or adding more loft or taking more loft off. Right? See if we have any more questions. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So we're going to wrap this up. If you have anything you'd like to see in the webinar, send us an email with a subject you'd like to see so we can put it in the queue to do webinars on the subject that you all want to hear. All right, so until next time, we'll see you.